Good morning, Flutarians. Welcome back to another session of the Atomic Flutist. If you haven't already read or listened to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, I highly recommend it. Some of the ideas that I'm demonstrating here are based off of ideas that I discovered in that book. The key of the day today is D major, so you can hear a drone on the note D. Let's go ahead and get started by improvising with just the first three notes of the D major scale. D, E, and F sharp. Remember, D major has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And if you're trying to discover a key signature by ear, remember that the sharps and flats are always added and subtracted in the same order every time. So if you discover that there's a C sharp, you can rest assured that there is also an F sharp in the key signature. So let's just do a two-breath improvisation with those first three notes. Remember, when you're improvising with a limited number of notes, you still have all of the other elements of music to improvise with, like volume, vibrato, articulation. Let's pop up to this D, and let's warm up our lower register by descending the chromatic scale 2 notes at a time. These are going to be long tones, and try and make your transition to the next lower note when you're 50% empty with your air tank. When we're improvising, we don't have a composer or sheet music there to remind us when to take a breath, so it's important to have an awareness of how much air do we have in our tank, so to speak, so that we can plan when are we going to take our next breath. So we'll do it like this: D, D, C sharp, take a breath, C sharp, C natural, take a breath, C, B, and let's also add a crescendo and a decrescendo. So try and make these as extreme of dynamics as possible, starting and ending as quietly as possible, and in the middle playing as loudly as possible. I'm going to do this without vibrato so that I can focus on intonation, because vibrato is like little tiny pitch bends, right? And we know with intonation on the flute, it tends to sound sharp when we play loud, and it tends to sound flat when we play quiet. So that's why I have the drone tone on to tune to, and I'm going to be mindful of adjusting however I can in my embouchure and in my body to make the note sound in tune as I get louder and as I get softer. So we'll go all the way down to the low D, maybe also down to the low C after that, and then we'll work our way up the flute again. So here comes D, D to D flat or C sharp. Now, as we go lower, if you're cracking up into the next octave, that's okay. Part of what we're doing is discovering where does the embouchure need to be for the low octave. You can always go back to the previous set of 2 notes that was easier and do that one again and see if you can relax into the next lower pair. So here we are, I think, at G sharp to G. Let's do 2 more down to the low C. I want to try that low one more time. Now let's start on that low D and let's practice our ascending chromatic scale. So let's do groups of 4 notes 4 times. So like this. And all the way up to the next higher D. We might even continue up to the high D. You may have noticed I'm adding a little bit of vibrato on that long note at the end. Before we continue higher up, let's practice vibrato with intention for a minute or two. I like to do it in these 4 ways. First, super duper slow and tall, so a lot of time in between the waves and a lot of height in the pitch difference between high and low. Then super fast as possible, and probably as shallow as possible too, not a whole lot of pitch variation. And then slow to fast, and then fast to slow. So let's do, excuse me, the super slow on this D. Now super fast. Now slow to fast. Now fast to slow. Now let's continue up the chromatic scale with those 4-note groupings. Before I did it slurred, let's try this next one, articulating each note with the tongue. Ta, 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 ta. So we'll start on this D and go all the way up to the higher D. Now, if you're not already adding some crescendos and decrescendos, go ahead and add those so that the music is always going somewhere. And here we are starting on G. Now let's work on descending down the D major scale, but first let's do an any way down. Any way up or any way down is an exercise or a game we frequently use as a warm-up or sound check in improv games, and basically it just means play all of the notes in the chosen scale at least once, but you can choose what order you play them in, what articulation, what rhythm, and what dynamics. In other words, you can go any way down the scale. So I use this to refresh my memory on how a scale goes, and remember, there's no rules about what timing you have to do it in. So if you need to pause while you're playing, you're holding one note, and maybe you're thinking about what's the key signature? What's the next note? Which notes am I going to play in what order next? So you can join me for an any way down D major. So let's start on this high D. And I want to do groups of pairs of two notes, kind of like the first warm-up we did, but this time increasing the interval each time. So we'll stay on the D as the first note, then we'll play D, C sharp, and then D, B, D, A, D, G. So 2 notes per breath, and also with that crescendo and decrescendo. Now I'm doing this without starting the second note with the tongue. No, it's not ta-ta, it's ta. And that helps me to focus on what exactly is changing in the embouchure without the assistance of the tongue to start the airstream. So let's continue doing that all the way down to the low D. So we'll do D, C sharp next, but it'll be more than an octave. Now let's practice a couple of extended techniques. Let's try a multiphonic. So multiphonic just means multiple notes at the same time. And there are certain notes on the flute that are easier to do this on, and that high D, let's hear what happens when we try and blow it really low. Gets that note. Now we can hypothetically get both the high note and the low note at the same time. I think of this, if the aperture in the embouchure is like a hole that can get taller or wider or bigger or smaller, then for a multiphonic, as opposed to getting wider like it would for a low note, it gets taller, like this. So you're hitting the high note with this part of the air and hitting the low note with this part of the air. So let's give that a try on the high D. You could try like I did, where you start on the low, then try and add the high one, then try and remove the low one, and then try and add back the low one. Let's do that for another breath. This is a technique that we would normally want to avoid, that's happening when it happens by accident, but learning how to do it on purpose, for example, in our warm-ups or perhaps in some modern music that has it written in, helps us figure out what exactly is happening in the embouchure when we hear that sound, so that we can avoid it when we don't want it. So let's also do some harmonics. So harmonics are what happen when we have our fingers on a low note and we play a higher note. So it's not always just an octave. It starts with an octave, D, D, then it's the fifth, an A, then it's another D, then I think it's a F sharp, and I'm trying to remember after that, maybe another A, and then maybe a C. Don't think I'll get that high, but let's try and do that with our fingers on the low D. See how many different notes can you get out just by changing the position of your embouchure and perhaps the velocity of or direction of your airstream. Let's do that again, but this time adding the tongue to start each note. And let's finish with a little bit of flutter tongue and a little bit of singing and playing. So let's do the singing and playing first. And this is also one that's good to practice because sometimes the voice accidentally activates and we get an unintentional kind of growly sound that we weren't going for. So learning how to do it on purpose helps us learn how to disengage it when we don't want it. So I'll play the flute and then start my voice basically right after it, so it sounds like the voice and the flute are activating at the same time. But you can also start the voice first and then bring the flute to you. And I recommend that for you if you are unfamiliar with this technique, like this. Now, once you've got the flute and the voice vibrating, see if you can keep the flute vibrating and stop the voice, and then bring back the voice like this. You can change around the position of your voice, but I'm just choosing the notes of the arpeggio. D, F sharp, or A. Let's try and do singing and flutter tongue at the same time. And how about finishing with a nice, beautiful D with a gentle vibrato? Well, thanks for warming up with me for another Atomic Flutist session. I'll be hosting improv games today at 12 p.m. Central Time. If you're new to my channel, please come join us in school. There are games that you can play virtually on your own time. There's a supportive community forum where you can post your improv progress. It will root you on and celebrate your successes and cheer you on through your failures. And I host improv games 4 times a week, plus some other special events where we not only have a good time making music with each other, but I also demonstrate through games the fundamentals of improvisation. Hope to see you and hear you soon there.